Japan just held the largest tournament ever with over 7,000 players, and it was in a completely fresh format. No Gardevoir, no Goldingo, no Charizard. And we lost some of the greatest trainers in the game as well. Iono, Countercatcher, Professor's Research, there are just too many to list them all. So everyone is talking about this tournament, but do you know what this card does? No, you don't, because everyone is hyper-focused on the same top 16 decks. Sure, it's incredibly cool that Mega Box is back, and the Arbeliever believers are eating good with that second place finish. But there was so much more going on beneath the surface. Slowking snagged a silver medal in the seniors division, and just take a look at the list. The Broken New Special Psychic Energy is a massive boost to consistency, allowing us to search the deck for any 2 basic Psychic Pokemon. Since Xatu is now gone with rotation, we've now got a combination of Smoochum and Wonder Patch for energy acceleration. And while it is only one copy, we've got to talk about that Mega Slowbro. It's got a monstrous 330 HP. Plus, Shelnado Spin does 180 damage for 3 Psychic Energy, and during your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon takes any damage, put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Of course, this isn't going to be useful in every matchup, but the fact that it exists offers incredible flexibility. There's one other list from the seniors division that I really want to bring to attention. Yeah, sure, Dragapult might have won. I mean, it's been dominating the meta, but check out what made it all the way to top 8. Steven's Metagross. We've got a thick 3-2-3 line and can use that X-Boot ability to accelerate multiple energies from the deck to any of our Psychic or Metal Pokemon. And there's a pretty sick toolbox of attackers to make use of. First is the brand new Mega Skarmory EX, which for 3 energy can deal 220 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon, at the cost of shuffling all that energy back into the deck. Well, it sounds like a cost, but actually, since you always want energy in the deck for Metagross's ability, this might actually not be a downside. There's also a thin 202 Empoleon line, which can be a great tank in certain matchups since it's immune to the effects of all attacks. Yes, that includes Alakazam. And its attack makes it even tankier, reducing incoming damage by 60 and dealing a respectable 210 itself. We've even got access to Lily's Clefairy and the option to instantly power it up with Metagross. You'll notice this card is going to be a bit of a trend since, like I mentioned, Dragapult is the deck to beat. So much of the fun in post-rotation is getting to play with all the new cards and cycling out the old ones. But you can do the exact same thing with your wardrobe by picking up some fresh new fits from Into the AM. I've been absolutely loving these 100% cotton graphic tees. They've got a ton of sick designs, and since I've been wearing them most days now, I can promise you the shirts are genuinely that comfortable. Head over to Into the AM/Danklin and use code Danklin for 10% off everything you grab. Alright, let's quickly take a look at the deck that won Juniors, and then we'll jump back into the Masters division. Would you believe it? Eevee's managed to take out the whole thing. I mean, it looks standard at first. We got 3 Eevees, 2 Flareons, a Leafeon, some Fan Rotoms, and a juicy 4-4 Noctowl line. But it seems Dragapult has become such a threat post-rotation that we're not just playing Lily's Clefairy anymore. Now we've got Team Rocket's Mimikyu as well. When you combine the two, that's going to be 400 damage into Dragapult, plus your own Phantom Dive spread for 60. There's also this Tapu Koko EX. Not sure what we need to hit for Lightning Weakness, but if you've got any ideas, make sure you let me know in the comments. I absolutely love the inclusion of Chen Pao, which is really starting to show up in a lot more decks now. With no more Penny or Professor Turo scenario, the only way to remove a liability from the board with a single card is by using an A-Spec in the form of Scoop Up Cyclone. However, if Area Zero Underdepths is in play, you can simply drop Chen Pao, remove the Stadium, and discard any 3 bench fellas that you don't want. Plus, with 4 Pokepads and 3 Ultra Balls, you've now got a ton of searchable outs while you're locked under Team Rocket's Watchtower. Technically, you can even attack with this guy. The deck has 2 Water Energy and even a copy of End's Plan. Now, I doubt they actually did, but the fact that you can out of nowhere is pretty funny, and it is technically your strongest one-prize attacker. Alright, over to Masters, and obviously, I'm not going to be focusing on the top 16 lists. If you haven't already seen them yet, here they are. There's a ton of Dragapults, a couple Lucarios, Raging Bolts, and Team Rocket's decks, as well as a few other cool archetypes, like Crustle. But if we look back at that meta graphic, there are a few prevalent decks that didn't quite crack the top 16. So let's take a look at some of these, and then we'll finish up by checking out my 3 absolute favorite lists from the event, and trust me, they're pretty spicy. We'll start with the deck that always wants to have 40 cards in hand, Alakazam. Here's Daichi's list that he used to go 7-1 on the first day of competition. Alakazam has gotten a lot more popular, so there are people actively teching for it now, with more Mist Energy, the new Rock Fighting Energy, and even some Team Rocket's Articunos, which actually completely negate Alakazam's powerful hand attack. But luckily, there's this nifty inclusion of another Alakazam that can break through and deal some direct damage. Plus, that strange hacking attack is just so unique. I'm sure it has some utility. It used to be a great way to trap energy on Gardevoir's Pokemon, but obviously that demon is gone to rotation now. There's a relatively thin to Dunsparce, and also this Ace Nullifier, Genesect, which makes sense when Unfair Stamp is in more than half the decks and you're trying to do everything in your power to keep a large hand size. Genesect does need to have a tool equipped to come online though, and funnily enough, he's just chosen to go with a single copy of Lucky Helmet, because Alakazam sure does love that free card draw. Also, I gotta mention the ridiculously broken combo of Hilda and that new Psychic Special Energy. There is 4 copies of each, and it is an absolutely unreal setup engine that easily scales into the late game, where you can just start using Hilda to search out Enriching Energy and draw even more cards. Next, let's see what happened to Grimmsnarl post-rotation. This player finished in the top 32, and I think it'd be hard to build a more stock standard list. We've pretty much just got high counts of all the good cards, and apparently Unfair Stamp is just so broken that we're not even running Secret Boxing Grimmsnarl anymore. I will say having 4 Petrol, a Meowth, and 3 Ultra Balls for 9 total outs to grab Stamp is pretty sick. It means you'll basically always be sending them to a 2-card hand the second they take that first KO. Another top 32 list is this build of Zoroark, and it's got quite a toolbox of attackers. 2 Darmanitan, 2 Zekrom, and still rocking a single Reshiram. Other than that, there aren't too many major standout cards in the list, but it is yet another Unfair Stamp abuser. How about Cynthia's Garchomp though? For a deck that did almost nothing pre-rotation, it's been seeing quite a bit of play in the new meta. I thought I'd showcase Rahul's list here, since he made it over for the tournament and in day 1 managed to go 6-2 with Garchomp. It is pretty straightforward with a ton of 4-offs, but I absolutely love the consistency of 4 Poppin, 4 Pokepad, 4 Fighting Gong, and with Gabite's Champion's Call ability on top of all that, I don't care that Japan plays best of 1, you are not bricking with this deck. There's also 2 copies of Surfer, and notably it seems a lot better in this post-rotation meta where you need some switching outs, given just how many retreat lockers there are going around. We also lost both the usual answers with both Penny and Professor Turo's scenario rotating. And I mean, we don't really want to be playing Switch, right? So these utility supporters like Kieran and Surfer that allow you to switch and do something else are great. The new Rock Fighting Special Energy is also a cool way to add some tanking capabilities to your already massive HP, by preventing the effects of all attacks done to your fighting Pokemon, just like Mist Energy would. It is interesting to see that there is no hand disruption at all though. Sure, Neo Upper is great in this deck, so I can see why you'd cut Unfair Stamp, but no Judge, no Harlequin, nothing? Alright, last 3 lists, let's get into the spicy ones. I gotta start it off with my GOAT, Baby Blood Moon Ursaluna. So this list went 8-0 on day 1, which is insane. I was worried that the archetype would fall off with the loss of Calamitous Snowy Mountain, but actually it's looking like we are more back than ever. Risky Ruins and Team Rocket's Venture Bomb are the new methods for instantly getting damage into play. But there's also a couple copies of this Ting Lu, which spreads 30 on all your opponent's Pokemon as long as you discard a stadium. Also gotta make mention to the brand new supporter Tarragon, who basically functions as Max Rod for fighting Pokemon and fighting energy. I will say though, it's a little unfortunate to see one of my favorite decks go to the dark side and include Unfair Stamp. But I mean, that's just how broken the A-Spec is post-rotation. Overall, I think this is a super solid starting point for rebuilding Blood Moon Ursaluna, and I'll definitely be cooking some post-rotation content for the deck, so make sure you subscribe for that. How about this Jellicent Dusknoir pile though? Both Daichi and Rahul played it in day 2 and had a pretty solid performance. You can absolutely destroy your opponent's board with Dusknoir's Curse Blast, all while keeping them item locked thanks to Frillish and Jellicent. Clefairy and Mega Diancie are perfect supplementary attackers, and with 4 Wonder Patch, none of them are that difficult to set up. Plus, your consistency has gotta be insane, with 3 Mysterious Gardens and 4 of the new Psychic Energy to fill out your bench and maximize draw. Also, who needs Unfair Stamp when you can be playing the best A-Spec Secret Box? Of course, we've got 3 copies of Judge for disruption anyway. Honestly, if I had to play a post-rotation tournament tomorrow, I'm just 100% sending this deck. It looks so fun. Lastly, I want to talk about the 122nd place deck, Mega Starmie Frostlass. I just think the big star looks really funny. So I'm glad it's packing such an efficient attack, and it really reminds me of Grimmsnarl. 120 damage with a 50 snipe that only takes one attachment is functionally quite similar to Shadow Bullet, and that's probably why it synergizes so well with Frostlass's Freezing Shroud. Also, shout out to the one copy of this Glalie. I can definitely see it coming in clutch as a one prize attacker to finish off anything that's been poked down by Mega Starmie. We're also again playing the most base day spec Secret Box, and absolutely no supplementary hand disruption. But actually, that might just be fine, since if our opponent ever builds up a decent sized hand, Mega Frostlass can come in and swing for an absolutely absurd amount of damage, 50 for each card in their hand. Overall, it's a pretty teched out list, but that makes sense when you have such low to the ground attackers. And look, this really is keeping my Mega Starmie dreams alive. I hope this deck is solid post rotation. I hope you fellas enjoyed joining me and taking a bit of a deeper dive than most would dare to do on these Champions League results. Cause really, who cares about those top 16 lists? I want to see the spice. If you are a fan of this type of content, you might want to consider becoming one of my YouTube channel members, or check out my Patreon and Metafy. I've been posting bonus videos every month. In fact, I just dropped a whole hour-long masterclass on Mega Absol earlier this week. And if you're a fan of looking fresh, just like all these post-rotation decks, make sure to visit Into the AM and use code DANKLIN for 10% off. Cheers, fellas. Hope you have a good one.